The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us and welcome to our webinar, Unlocking the Power of Your AdWords Search Query Report. Today we're going to be talking about keywords, search queries, and of course your search query report. We'll be looking at strategies for reviewing your report and how to use the WordStream PPC Advisor for keyword expansion and negative keyword research. Plus we'll be introducing you to the 20-minute PPC Workweek. If you want to tweet or use your Google Plus to share some information about the webinar, that's terrific. And we have a hashtag for you. It's #PPCSQR. And now I'd like to introduce our speakers. Today we have Larry Kim, founder and CTO of WordStream.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks for hosting the event.
And we also have Brad Geddes, who is the founder of Certified Knowledge and author of Advanced Google AdWords.
Thanks, Kathy. It's always good to be here.
All right, so this is Larry speaking here, and welcome. And before jumping all into this important topic of search query data, I thought we could just ask you a couple questions, kind of try to figure out who's on the line today. And our first question for today is about how much time do you spend on doing PPC work every day in terms of your various responsibilities, or every week, sorry. If you could just lock in your votes there, that would be great. The possible answers are stuff like, I'm supposed to be doing work every week, question mark, hopefully not too many of those. Less than an hour a week, 1 to 10 hours a week, 10 to 39 hours a week, or if it's your full-time job, just how are we doing on the poll here?
Okay, we'll just we'll give it one more minute for everyone to lock in their votes, and then we'll share the results.
Hey, Brad, do you work more with kind of full-time search marketers, or more just like marketing managers for which search is one of the many things that they do?
You know what? It's a mixture. We probably work about 1/3 with in-house companies who have anywhere from 5 to 20 people managing accounts. About 1/3 SMBs who manage this in 10 hours a week or so, and then the other third is probably agencies. So it's probably a pretty even split.
And I think that's what we're seeing here as well. The biggest component here is definitely the full-time search marketers, but in aggregate, the 0 to 40 hours make up the rest, 60%. So I have just one other question for our audience today. Again, just to kind of align our content with the audience here. And the question is, do you mine your search query data? Kathy, could we get this one up? Answers are stuff like, no, what's a search query report? Or B, I tried it, but it was just too hard, too complicated. And then in terms of like, if you do analyze your search query report data, I'm just curious if this is something that you've done once in a while, like every month or so, or if this really is part of your must every week do search regimen. Brad, how often would you recommend for like a average small and medium-sized business spending around $5,000 a month? Like how often would you say would make sense for something like that?
Yeah,
for the vote.
But like for $5,000 a month, I would say like probably twice a month go through it. If you're spending $25,000 a month, you should probably go through it weekly. For spending $1 million a month, you should do it daily. But for most people, I really think every other week is a good flow. Minimum once a month. But and also when an account is new, you check it more often, right? Because you're kind of getting it into shape. So as it goes along, a little less often.
Totally agree. And it looks like no surprises here. We had 40% of people who were full-time search marketers, and 42% of people are saying that they check it every week. So the rest of, but we also have very diverse audience here. A couple people saying, they've never, at least a third of people saying that it was either too hard or haven't done it yet. So that's great. All right, so I thought we could now just hand it over to Brad, who is going to first take us through sort of a deep dive in terms of everything you needed to ever know about search query analysis, but were afraid to ask. Take it away, Brad.
All right, so those numbers really are kind of far-ranging. 42% every week is actually really impressive. I don't see that number too often, but so we're going to walk through the basics first just to make sure everyone is on the same page of what we're dealing with, and then some ways of sort of thinking about it and working with the data, as well as some negative keyword information, because that matters just as much for handling SQRs. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Brad Geddes. I'm the founder of Certified Knowledge. We're a PPC training and tool company. I'm also the author of Advanced Google AdWords. Second edition is about 660 pages, so it's a tome, but good stuff on AdWords, and just a few companies I've worked with over the years. So when we get into search queries, we need to sort of just make sure, for those of you who haven't worked with this much, understand what a query is versus a keyword. So, and when you go into your account, you're putting in keywords. And a keyword and a match type is just a signal to Google of how closely related what someone actually types into the engine, the search query, should be to your keywords. So, for instance, in this case, this keyword is Tully ribbon, and it's broad matched. And so when we do a search, an actual query, we see that the term organza ribbon is actually one of the top queries showing for a different keyword, Tully ribbon. So what someone types into the engine is the actual query. And then depending on your match types, depends on how closely this query can be related to your keyword or how far away the query can be from your keyword. So a keyword is what's in your account that tells Google what to show you for. A query is what someone actually typed into the engine. So then that brings us, right to match types. So if you're using exact match, then your queries are going to be the same as your keywords. If you're using phrase match, then your keyword should be within the query, but you can have additional words around it. If you're using modified broad match, the modification words should be close in the query, but the other stuff can be sort of related. And broad match is the evil part of search queries, because with broad match, Google will show you for whatever they deem relevant. And so that's how you have a word like Tully ribbon being shown for a completely different query like organza ribbon inside your account. Broad match can really bring in some crazy queries into your account. So why SQR optimization matters is really once you get into seeing here's the queries, here's the actual keywords we're using in a proper organization structure. It'll help increase your CTRs. It'll increase your conversion rates. It'll increase quality scores. It should lower your CPA. You should get rid of bad queries that never lead to conversion, so you should save some money. So doing search query optimization is really important to take control over what queries actually are causing your ads to be displayed. So we look at working with the data. It's not too difficult. So first, query data is always best, and just AdWords data is always best with conversion tracking. And when you have conversion tracking enabled, you can not only see just what ads and keywords lead to conversions, but you can see what actual queries lead to conversions as well. So everything is better with conversion tracking, whether it's Google script, analytics script, your own analytics system. You want some way to be able to tie actual sales, revenues, leads, whatnot on your website to the individual queries you're being displayed for. So finding the query data, it's not too difficult. Go to the Keywords tab, and you can select an individual keyword and see what Google's showing it for, or you can just see all the words in an account, a campaign, etc. And so just Keywords tab, keyword details. And then you'll get to the query data. Now, the search term is what the user actually typed into the engine. So this may or may not be your keyword. The match type then is how closely related to your keyword. You have an added and excluded column. If you've added a word, so it's no longer just a query, it's actually in your account, then you'll see the added button. If you've made it a negative keyword, you'll see excluded here. And then we get into the metrics. So your clicks, impressions, conversion rates, etc. The data you want to work with to determine if a query is actually good for you or not. So when you scroll down to the bottom of this page, you'll see things called other search terms. These are generally low-volume items that Google has aggregated together. In some search terms, you will never be able to see because the term contains personal identifying information. Someone typed in a product with their phone number or something that Google's not going to share because it's PIM, it's privacy data. But in other cases, you can narrow down the date range of what you're looking for. When you narrow down the date range, then often those other queries will then start to be displayed. So it's the only way really to get to it is date range manipulation for the other terms. So when we look at what to do with the data, if we've already added a word or excluded a word, then we don't really need to look at it. So we want to figure out what are these other queries we're being displayed for which we haven't yet taken control. Taking control by making it a keyword or making it a negative keyword. So you can use the filtering option in AdWords. Say only show me words which I have not yet added or excluded. So these are the queries you're being displayed for, which some may be good, some may be bad, but you haven't decided what to do with them yet. So this is where your decisions need to come into play of what do you do with these queries. So first off, you want to look at search queries that are converting. They're leading to actual sales, leads, some sort of revenue event, but they're not in your account. Because these are words that you obviously want to add to your account. So A, you control the ad serving. You control how much you're willing to actually bid for the term. You make sure that Google continues to show you for words. If you have broad match words, just because Google shows you 1 month for a query doesn't mean they'll show you the second month for a query. These change over time based upon their revenue-based formulas with quality scores and so forth. So you always, if you see words that are leading to sales, you want to make them actual keywords in your account. Now, this is easy to do. You can pick a keyword. You can save it right to the ad group. If you want to save it to a different ad group, you sort of need to back out and manually add it to the ad group. But that's actually a big question, is when you're adding these keywords, is what ad group should they show for? A lot of times, you might have multiple ad groups that show for the same word, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later in this presentation. But making sure that it's being displayed from the right ad group and you're adding it to the right ad group is a good idea. Second, if you just click on the word and add it, you're adding it as broad match. So if you don't want to add it as broad match, you want to add it as exact or modified broad phrase, etc., then in the keyword column, just go ahead and change the match type with your brackets or your plus signs so that you're adding not the broad match version of the word, but the word you actually want to add. And if it's a high volume word, you're going to want to add it as exact match. So then we're also going to have words that are not doing well for us. So another way to continue with the filters then is to first make a filter where these words have not been added or excluded, and then your cost per conversion is over whatever you're looking for, or your conversion rate is lower than what you want. Use some metric where these words are not meeting your target goals. Is really the next thing to look for, is to group these words together. Now, when you get to these words, you really have a few different ways of working with them. You can say, you know what, this word, it's not that the word is bad, it's that the word is being displayed from the wrong ad group. And so the ad copy doesn't reflect the word, and the landing page doesn't reflect the word. In that case, you might want to add it to the correct ad group so you can set a bid based upon what its actual conversion is, or see if the word can even work whatsoever for you. If the word just isn't working at all, then you want to make it a negative keyword. And I'm going to get to negatives in just a few minutes. But to stop that ad from showing, or that query from showing in the future, because it leads to clicks, it leads to spend, but it doesn't lead to any money, so you're just wasting your money when you're being displayed for this query. Now, while you can do a lot of this in the interface, every once in a while you kind of want to get dirty with Excel. go in and do some sorting and grouping of these words. So, for instance, and this account sells Tulle, which is a fabric type. I'm not a fabric guru, so I hope I pronounce these right. But Google's regularly showing them for this different fabric type called organza. Now, most of these words don't have that much data. They've got 1 click, 1 impression, 4 clicks, 6 impressions, really low data. But when you combine it all together, every query that's ever shown with this word organza, they've spent $1,100 for 2 conversions. So their general CPA is about $20. Their CPA with this particular query, the word anywhere in the query, is $500. So in this case, you don't want to just make organza pink and organza veil negative keywords. You want to go to the root and say, hey, this word organza does not work for us. Let's add the whole, the negative from all these queries from displaying. So that's sometimes part of the problem in the Google interface is you're adding only the query. And as that query may have multiple modifiers on it, maybe 3, 4, 5 words long, and what's really happening is the root is the bad part. You want to back up and add more root keywords as negatives as well. So there's a simple workflow you can use when you look at query data. You look at the data and you ask yourself the question first, is it converting? If it is converting, your next question is there a better ad group for this keyword? If yes, then add the keyword or create a new ad group for that query. If it's not converting, if there's not a better ad group for it, then you add it to an existing ad group. Then go back and say, is it converting? No. So your next question is, should it? Is this probably a good word for us, but it's just being displayed from the wrong ad group, the wrong ad's being displayed, the wrong landing page. So in that case, put it in the correct ad group, bid based upon its CPA, or later on when you're doing your keyword work, you'll see, hey, this word just doesn't convert, let's go ahead and delete it from the account. Now, if you say, this word's not converting and it really shouldn't convert, it's not what we do, then you make it a negative keyword. So just a simple workflow will let you walk through the queries to add the good stuff, put it in the right ad groups, and get rid of the bad stuff. So sometimes, though, another issue is if you've got an account only spending a few $1,000s a month, and you might not have enough conversion data to always make decisions based upon cost per conversion, cost per action, and so forth. So another way of getting sort of interim data is to use GA Google Analytics, where you can use, any analytics system can handle this, where you could make even a goal that is just 5 minutes on site, or someone visited 3 pages. And if you make goals like this, make a new profile. Don't pollute your current profile with all these goals, because there'll be a lot of them. And then what you're looking for is, okay, this word only has 9 clicks, but it's got 0 goals and a 100% bounce rate. You know what? That probably isn't working for us then. Or, this keyword only has 11 clicks, but everyone's spending 5 minutes on our website on this keyword. Let's give it some more time before we make it a negative. So that gives you that interim step of seeing the quality of the user who's doing a query. Beyond goals, you can just sort this right now. You can go into, if you're using Google Analytics, you can go into your advertising section, matched search queries, and just make a simple filter. Say visits greater than, say, 20, and a per visit goal value, or it could be a cost per conversion, whatever filter you want. In this case, we're using per visit goal value of less than 1. And these are words that really, they're not helping us out at all, so we're more likely to make them negative keywords. So if you have low volume stuff, then GA or your own analytics system where you're using can be a nice interim step until you get enough data to decide on a conversion basis if you should make this a negative keyword or a positive keyword. So just when working with queries, just some key points to remember here. The search query is what the user typed into the engine. A keyword, what's in your account, and a keyword plus match type is just a signal to Google of what they should show you for. The query is what the user actually typed in. So then when search queries lead to conversions, make sure they're keywords so that you do display for these over and over again. Don't rely on Google's ad serving to handle it for you. Make sure they're actual keywords. And when you see queries that are leading to wasted spend, then block them with negative keywords. So we need to get into negatives too then, is how do we block these? So I just saw a quick chat from Kathy. In my interface, I don't see the filter for not added or excluded. Can you show the screen again? Hey, I'll get to that as soon as we're done. Let me just keep going, and we'll go back to Q&A in a second. So with negative keywords, these words block your ads from actually being displayed. And that's important. There are times that a query is not good for you and you don't want to show it. That's what negative keywords do, is they block your ad. They make Google not display your ad. So at a very high level, there's 3 places you can use negative keywords. You have ad group negatives. With ad group negatives, you only block the queries from that specific ad group. And then you have campaign negatives. When a negative is at the campaign level, it blocks that query across the entire campaign, every ad group in that campaign. And then finally, there's negative lists. And with negative lists, you can put in a set of keywords and then apply that list to as many campaigns as you want. So if you have a big account, negative lists are a huge, huge time saver because you might find one new word you don't want to be displayed. You've got 30 campaigns. Your option is to add it to 30 campaigns or just add it once to a negative list and make sure that list is applied to all your campaigns. So there are some problems, though, that really people run into when they're adding negatives. One is adding the same negative to every ad group. And this sometimes gets into when you're trying to squash a query from being displayed. Is you've got some modified broad match, maybe some broad match going on, and you look at your search query data and you add a negative to the ad group. And so Google can't show it from that ad group anymore, but you've got another ad group that's close enough. So they then show it from this ad group. And then you add a negative to that ad group, and then it happens again. Google shows it from a third ad group. And so if you're adding the same negatives to a whole lot of ad groups, then you really just want to, and you don't want to be displayed for this at all, make it a campaign negative instead. Right? Campaign negatives block it across every ad group inside the campaign. Now, another problem that comes up is you have a lot of different campaigns, and you keep adding the exact same negative keyword to all these campaigns. And this becomes an organizational nightmare because you're going to forget a campaign, you're going to create a new one and forget that these were negatives that should exist. So if you've got a larger account and you're adding the same negatives to lots and lots of campaigns, instead make negative keyword lists. And then with those negative keyword lists, you can apply them to the individual campaigns where you don't want this something shown. So now if you've got 30 campaigns, you've got a negative keyword list that goes to all 30, you find one more query you don't want to show for. You add it once to a negative list. You don't have to add it 30 times. So negative lists are a really good time savers when you're working with larger accounts. So another issue comes into play is adding all the permutations of queries. This is an actual negative keyword list for an account. And they sell gates, but they sell gates for like fences, and they sell some industrial stuff. And they had all these negative keywords, which are all about baby gates and safety gates for kids, etc. And it was thousands of them. But when you look at it at the root, there were really only 6 negative keywords they needed. So when you're in the account and you add those negatives right from the ad groups or from the query data, Google's going to add the actual query. If you don't want to show for a root of a word, then add the root term. Don't add all the individual queries instead. So another issue that the query data will give you fantastic insight into is who's controlling your ad serving, you or Google. Right? I hear people say we're optimizing our accounts. And I always try to ask people, what does that mean? Right? What does optimizing actually mean? And to me, just my personal definition is that it means you're taking control over your ad serving. That you know when someone typed in a search query, this ad will be displayed from this ad group, and this ad will go to that landing page. So for every query, you know the ad and the landing page exactly what's going to happen. So if you take your search query data, download it into an Excel file. Make a pivot table. This takes about 30 seconds. Make a pivot table that shows you here's the queries and here's the number of different ad groups that have shown for that query. And if this number is more than 1, you might have an issue. Now, if you're doing lots of geographic campaigns, it makes sense to have the word in multiple places. For display, it makes sense on occasion to have a word in multiple display ad groups. But if you're doing just search and you take this across your account or just a few campaigns if you want to get real great at the data, and just look and say, wow, we're being displayed from 22 different ad groups for this query. You do not have ad serving control whatsoever. And that's a lot of negatives can be used to also shape accounts. So let's say that we're in the hosting industry. And we have one ad group that has keywords like just basic hosting stuff in it. We have another ad group that's got website hosting, site hosting as keywords. We have yet another ad group that's VPS hosting, virtual private server hosting. We have another ad group that's cheap hosting. Usually people who type in words like cheap, low cost, they want ads more reflective of price consciousness as opposed to just features and benefit sets. So if you've got, and this is a decent organization of 4 different ad groups, and of course this could be a whole lot more, and someone were to type in cheap VPS website hosting, that's their query. Well, your hosting ad group could show because the word hosting's in the query. Your website hosting ad group could show because the word website hosting's in the query. Your VPS hosting ad group could show because the query contains VPS and hosting. And the query also contains cheap and hosting, so your 4th ad group should show. So in this case, every ad group could show for this query. You don't have ad serving control. And so this is where using ad group negatives lets you take that control back from Google. So you can say, okay, we have this campaign that's hosting. It's very general. So we know our CPA is going to be high, or maybe it's something we're doing from an awareness standpoint, but our ad can't be that specific. So if someone types in VPS hosting, we want a very specific ad about VPS hosting. So we take our hosting ad group, we say, okay, if they're price conscious, they type in cheap, we don't want to show them, so we're minus cheap. We take VPS, we add as a negative. Website, add as a negative. Now that ad group cannot show for the term cheap hosting or VPS hosting. It can't show for it. So now we have our second ad group, website hosting. And we do the same thing, minus cheap, minus VPS. We're blocking in what ad groups could show for a query. Now the website hosting ad group cannot show for minus cheap, can't show for minus VPS. Then we have our cheap hosting ad group. And because this is usually a price-conscious person who wants just some $5.99 monthly plan, VPS is a very specific type of hosting. We just take minus VPS. Then we've got our VPS hosting ad group, say minus cheap. And then finally we make one more for people who want cheap VPS hosting for Plesk or cPanel-based systems. So by using those negatives at the ad group level, we've now forced Google to show the correct ad. Now when you do this, it's really pretty when you first set it up, because you know exactly what things are, why you've set it up in a certain fashion. But as you add words, as you move words around, you often lose the structure. So if you're going to walk down a path like this, it's usually really useful. Keep just a basic spreadsheet that says, here's the ad groups, here's the purpose of the ad groups, and here's the purpose of the negative keywords on the ad groups. So now when you move a keyword around, you can take a look at your spreadsheet and say, oh, that's why this negative was there. You know what, we should keep these negatives in our new ad group just because we're using it from a shaping purpose. Or you look at your spreadsheet and say, okay, we're going to actually break this into not just VPS hosting, but Plesk VPS and cPanel VPS. So we need to add those new negatives to our VPS hosting ad group because we're going to make more specific ad groups later on. And so by keeping just, even if it's a basic spreadsheet, lets you make sure that you're maintaining control of your account as it grows. Now, Google doesn't have this. Bing's got this wonderful report called a negative keyword conflicts. It will show you what keywords you have in your account that aren't being displayed because you've got the same thing as a negative word. So this is sometimes for shaping, you'll see these in here because you've done this on purpose. Other times, as accounts grow and change over time, you might mistakenly add a negative and you've blocked a keyword that you actually did want to display for. So you can run this in Bing. You can't run this in AdWords. So,
Hey Brad, I actually saw I saw like in AdWords like just 2 weeks ago I saw a negative keyword conflict alert, like that it wasn't a report, but it just like anyways, it's something.
No, it's an alert. Yeah, so Google started showing alerts for this, but it's not consistent, and you can't get them all.
Right. It's just
but they are starting.
alerts.
Yeah, you're right. They are starting to show some alerts in the account, but it hasn't been as robust as it needs to be. But at least they're walking on the pathway.
Cool.
Which is good to see. I would love for them to actually add this as a full report. So just some key points on negatives. Negative keywords, they stop ads from being shown. When a search query leads to spend but no conversions, then block it using the proper type of negative keyword. When a query is being displayed from the wrong ad group, then use negatives at the ad group level to force Google to show the right ad. And so just reminders on queries. This is a simple workflow, but it's really effective. Look at the search query data. Your first question is, does it convert? So you must have conversion tracking enabled to do this well. So if it's converting, your question is there a better ad group? If yes, then make a new ad group or put it in the correct one. If no, then put it in its existing ad group. Is it converting? No, but it should. Then put it in the correct ad group. If no, then make it a negative keyword. And then, as you add negatives, consider, should this be in a negative list? We want to apply it to all our campaigns, just never show for this, or even select campaigns. Should we be adding root words instead of the actual queries? And other organizational concerns we need to think about. So, using these workflows and these just few questions, you can take all that query data and make it meaningful and actionable inside the account so that you're adding words that convert, you're getting rid of stuff that doesn't convert. This is going to help your conversion rates, cost per conversions, et cetera, over time, and it'll make a much, much better organized account so you control the ad serving and not Google. And if you want to learn more about this, you can read a book or join us at Certified Knowledge. And I'm going to turn it back over to Larry to walk through some more stuff about WordStream.
Awesome. Thanks for all that insight, Brad. I've heard a lot of people presenting about search queries, but I think this is probably the best presentation that I've heard on this particular topic. So thanks for that. I think it was really great to hear about your in-depth process of like what you're thinking about when you're analyzing the search query reports and trying to figure out which ones to keep and which ones to get rid of. And overall, I think for everyone here, I think that this is really an essential element of, as Brad was calling it, PPC account optimization, meaning like taking control of your account. Now, at a high level, I think this is really very, very important because AdWords is basically all about paying for clicks on searches, and so obviously it would make a lot of sense to pay attention to what kind of searches are actually happening, and as well as taking control over the ads and landing pages that you end up sending people to after you've paid for those clicks. And so one of the challenges here that I see in terms of especially small medium-sized businesses, and one of the challenges that I hear is that it can be a little bit tricky. So like thinking back to that poll, about a third of the respondents said either they tried and stopped doing it or that they had never done it before. And so even if you don't think that this is very complicated work, the other 2/3 of people were saying something like that they were doing it, but I think it can be time-consuming. And so from that perspective, if you're say you're an agency and you're working at like 12 different accounts or something, like this is certainly not, it takes a little while to go through potentially hundreds or thousands of search queries in your, or even millions of search queries in your data. And so basically what I wanted to do today was talk, in my part of the presentation here, talk a little bit about leveraging the identical strategies that Brad just outlined in his presentation for doing keyword expansion and negative keyword research. But outlining sort of a process using tools. And to do this, I'm going to be introducing my product. It's WordStream's PPC Advisor, and as its name suggests, it's kind of like a PPC advisor. It's like a helper that's kind of going to give you some practical advice on how to go about optimizing your account every week. And so when I developed this thing a couple of years back, I wanted it to be three things. It had to be super simple, meaning like, even though Brad's saying like, yeah, I just use an Excel spreadsheet or a pivot table. Like, what if you don't know how to do that, or what if you don't have conversion tracking set up? Like, I just want it to be really, really simple. And in terms of familiarity. I just wanted it to be, if you've ever done any work in AdWords, this should be a very familiar interface for you. And finally, I wanted to eliminate a lot of the needs for doing a lot of the calculation and analysis work. So you'll see in just a moment that these tools that I'm about to show you, they do ask you a bunch of questions, but they tend to be more along the lines of like business questions as opposed to like more low-level details on search query properties. So let's take a look at this in detail, and starting with keyword expansion. So as I was just saying earlier, it can be definitely time-consuming because there could be thousands or even millions of search queries to potentially review. Another challenge is sort of just trying to make the determination of whether or not the keyword is worth adding or not, and if so, where. Like trying to make sure that it doesn't have any unintended side effects. Also, the issue of that search query keyword expansion is kind of backwards looking. So it's kind of looking at stuff that you've already been matched to at one time, but there could be other opportunities that you're missing out on. And so I just wanted to give you a quick sense of like how a tool like WordStream, PPC Advisor, could help you do a similar type of work. It has to do with our Add Keywords tool, and right off the bat, as you can see, it tells you exactly kind of what kind of potential ROI impact that you could expect to see. It would show you a list of keywords. We've noted we crop it so that we're trying to find like the top 5 or top 10 opportunities, as opposed to like having to go through everything, because there is this sort of thing of low-hanging fruit, if you will. Like there's going to be some keywords that do better than others, and so we're just trying to identify sort of what we believe to be the most promising looking in terms of like volume and relevancy to your account. And so we do factor in a lot of factors, like maybe a couple dozen factors, including stuff like the things that Brad was talking about, conversion data, also engagement data, etc. And you just review the list, and that could take just a minute, and then click apply. And so that's just one example of kind of using search query data, but using a tool to enable that. One other thing that Brad was talking about earlier in his talk was around a negative keyword expansion. Again, it's at a high level, a very challenging task, because in a nutshell, you're basically trying to figure out what are the unintended searches that are triggering your ad. And of course, if you had known that to begin with, obviously you wouldn't have had them in there to begin with. So this I find can be even harder to do than just keyword expansion. And again, same challenges, that it takes time, and that it tends to be very reactive. What I mean by that is, I think Brad showed an example where there were like thousands of baby gate search queries, and so by the time they found it, I mean, it's a good thing that they find it, but the damage is already kind of done. They've already paid for a lot of those clicks, and so so combining this idea, so we've come up with this negative keyword research tool in WordStream, and it's basically, it tells you exactly how much wasted spend that we've found. Brad was talking about in his process that you have to go after the roots, and so this is not a negative keyword phrase detector. It's a negative keyword root detector. So we have these things called negative keyword contenders, which they tend to be like root words like page or agreement or whatever. So this particular business, they're doing kind of like server applications. Now, unfortunately, the word server applications, like it's being matched against all sorts of things like job applications and rental applications and white page applications. We've kind of done a pretty sophisticated analysis, gone through like thousands or millions of queries, and kind of aggregated the cost and looked at the conversion data associated with those queries, and just again trying to focus on the low-hanging fruit here. We've kind of narrowed it down to the top 5 or top 10 to bring to your attention, and you can easily just review and apply the negative keywords that we've identified. And so the other thing about this thing is that it's very proactive. So in addition to mining your search query data for negative keyword contenders, we also have this trillion keyword database, and that we kind of proactively look through, and when you're doing the keyword expansion, we can also suggest like negatives that might not be relevant to the theme of your ad group, kind of proactively in order to kind of stop the damage or irrelevant searches from happening before they happen, if that makes sense. So I know what you might be thinking. Basically, that this is maybe too easy, and what if I would like to do things kind of more in a deep dive way, and as Brad was suggesting, analyzing a lot of the search query data in greater detail, and so if that's kind of if that's your workflow or your orientation, then fear not. We have tools that can support those workflows too. We've got this pretty cool tool called WordStream, and it's really a very powerful search query workbench, and has some very sophisticated tools for analyzing the search query data associated with your AdWords campaigns, and we've got a ton of really interesting built-in filters so that you can kind of find the gold or the junk very quickly, and of course all of this is very actionable. You can you could create an ad group or add to an existing ad group, or export the data, or do whatever you want with this data in a very actionable way. So that's WordStream. One of the challenges with search query analysis is, as I was saying earlier, it's kind of if you have a kind of a medium to large size account, it can be a little bit like trying to boil the ocean. And what do I mean by that? Well, generally there's going to be more search queries in your account than there is time to review every one of them. And so kind of a reasonable question that you might ask yourself is, how much search query analysis is enough? Remember at the beginning of the talk, I asked Brad, like, hey, what would you suggest for an account doing 5,000 a month? Like, how often would you dive into the search queries? And he said, at least once a month, maybe twice a month. And so the idea here is that it kind of, knowing that there's time associated with, doing this work, and that your time is not free, that, it's not, your goal shouldn't be to necessarily embark on some suicide mission, which could involve like reviewing millions of terms. We don't want to send you on a path to madness here, but nevertheless, I said earlier that that this is a very important and valuable endeavor. And so, what's a good goal to set in terms of how much time and energy should you be spending on this valuable task of search query analysis? And so typically that can be a very difficult question, but WordStream has developed a really awesome tool. It's called the WordStream AdWords Performance Grader, and I know you guys are all watching this on your screen here, so you can just go to www.wordstream.com/google-adwords, and what that is, it's a free AdWords performance auditing tool, so you can just run it on your account. We'll analyze how you're doing in your account on different metrics, and kind of tell you areas where you're doing great, and then areas where you need to improve, and what kind of stuff will you learn in terms of actionable insights and benchmarking. Well, one of them has to do with long-tail keyword optimization. So we're talking a lot about keyword expansion using search query report data. And so one of the key metrics that we've found in terms of success or failure in an account is, like, are you kind of primarily targeting just very, very broad, head terms, like one or two word terms, like insurance or something, or are you going after sort of the mid-tail terms, like motorcycle insurance or Boston motorcycle insurance? Like, how well are you doing in terms of targeting the mid-tail and long-tail? And so we'll analyze your search query distribution, and we'll kind of give you a sense for how that stacks up against other advertisers that are very similar to you in terms of their spend and their industry. And that's kind of a very interesting insight, because, again, it kind of gives you a sense for if you're doing enough. work in this area. Similarly, Brad was talking about negative keyword expansion, and of course it's very, very important. One of the interesting kind of metrics that we'll pull is kind of how many negative keywords have you added in the last quarter and last month, and we'll just give you a sense for how those kind of metrics of activity compare to other advertisers who are spending similar amounts to you and are in similar industries. So that could give you a sense for if you should be, taking it easy, or if you should maybe, be stepping up a little bit more in terms of your keyword researching efforts. And now, of course, ultimately, the main metric is of course cost per conversion and an ROI. But these are kind of like just secondary benchmarks that you can use to sort of grade your achievement or lack thereof. And finally, one of the, there's many other metrics that we showcase in this free report, or the Google AdWords Grader. But the one that I also wanted to show today was kind of your quality score distribution. Now, quality score, that's a very important metric in your account because it's a direct impact on the ad impressions in terms of like how often your ads get shown and in what position, which impacts kind of your visibility as well as your actual cost per click. And now, to the extent that you're able to do good keyword expansion and keyword researching, and being able to align the keywords to good ads and landing pages, as Brad was suggesting earlier, then that should improve your click-through rate, which should then therefore improve your quality score. And so here's kind of like a diagnosis tool showing kind of like what the recommended average curve looks like versus what's in your account, and then you can kind of diagnose if there's opportunities for optimization here or not. So that's the AdWords Grader, and I really highly recommend everyone on the call to just give it a try, benchmark your account. It's just a free tool that will provide you some very interesting insights. The other thing I wanted to just talk a little bit about was the 20-minute PPC work week. So that's one of the main features of our PPC management product, it's like super impactful. It's the thing that's going to be giving you expert guidance on what to do in your account. And I've already shown you kind of two of the tools. As you saw, they were very easy. That WordStream does a lot of the heavy lifting, and you just kind of say yes or no to the top 10 or something like that. And this thing is really smart. It's not just like a of course, we look for things like conversions, but we look for all sorts of other different signals like relevancy to your ad group and all this stuff, and try not to do damage. And so we'll do this analysis and then just kind of bubble up top 10 ideas so that you don't have to. And so this is we did a lot of how did we make this thing? We did a lot of research on thousands of different AdWords accounts and trying to figure out like why are some successful and why do others kind of fail or fizzle, and we found that there were certain characteristics in terms of certain accounts doing better than other accounts. Like what were the predictors of success or failure? And we found that there was a certain workflow that the successful cohort of advertisers were doing that the failure cohort wasn't doing, taking advantage of, and we made it into a workflow. We're calling it the 20-minute PPC work week, and it's like, as its name suggests, it's kind of like 20-minute abs. It's 20 minutes, and you just focus on these different tasks, recommended tasks and workflow, in order to keep your account in decent shape. So minutes 0 to 1, could you do a quick check of some bids and budgets? Obviously, it would probably take a little longer if you're doing it manually, but we're providing tools that would make that possible. Minutes 2 to 4 has to do with pausing poorly performing keywords. So like that's sort of the a necessary thing. Like if you're doing keyword expansion, you can't just like put them in there and forget about them. You have to kind of periodically check to see how they're doing, and then if they don't work out, it's important to remove them from the account. of course, doing the keyword research that we just talked about right now. I've already shown you those tools for doing keyword expansion, doing the negative keyword expansion, and then trying out with different keyword match types. This is a very important element of the work week. Minutes 10 to 14 has to do with optimizing ad text, trying to align the keywords and the ads in a better way. We're trying out different offers. Like this was a really key driver in driving click-through rates, which was pretty important for overall success or failure. In terms of the minutes 15 to 18, we want you to focus on stuff like improving the relevancy of the campaign. So that has to do with like the organizational stuff that Brad was talking about in terms of like trying to make sure that the keywords are like the right ads and landing pages are showing for the intended searches. And stuff like splitting up larger ad groups into more targeted ad groups or creating more specific landing pages. That's kind of what we would define here. And then finally, PPC reporting. So that's where you see where you stand, and also then show off. You mail a report to your boss or your stakeholder or your client. And the reason why that's important has to do with just compliance. It helps you. It's kind of like telling your friends that you're going on a diet or something. Like if you keep your stakeholders kind of aware of your activities, they're going to kind of help you be accountable for the goals and stuff like that. And it tells them a message that you're committed to something and that you're on a path to success here. And so, this little checklist, it's free. You can just download it from our website. Just Google 20-minute PPC work week. It talks about the different tasks here. But I just wanted to kind of bring everything together here and kind of describe to you how WordStream PPC Advisor works in terms of the 20-minute PPC work week. Basically, it has all these really nice charts and graphs, but the thing that I wanted to tell you a little bit about was the 20-minute PPC work week. And as you can see, it's just like a to-do list, a weekly to-do list. Tells you like these are the things that you need to focus on. We've analyzed everything in your account and we've bubbled it up to these 10 things for this week. And it shouldn't take forever. It should take just around 20 minutes to work through, and that's pretty impactful. And I was showing you some of those features. So, for example, keyword bid optimization, I'll show you that in just a second. The negative keyword research, for example, we talked about that. Pausing keywords that aren't performing, and because it's a workflow, we tell you like, oh, you're halfway done or 10% done, and you can kind of see how much work there is to do there. And then finally, we keep score because all this is very analytical. We can tell you how much you've saved or how many clicks or conversions you've earned based on kind of the optimizations that you've done in your account. So so there were just two other tools I wanted to just quickly show you. One of them was the bids and budgets. You might have been thinking to yourself, like, how the heck am I supposed to do, optimizing all my keyword bids in just, 2 minutes? Well, obviously, I was suggesting that you should use automation. And so the way that WordStream does it, we do all the analysis. We just give you some proposals, and you can take a look and try to discern if it makes sense to make these bid changes, and if so, we'll tell you why, and then you can just review the list and click apply. The reviewing the costly keywords, this is just one last tool I was going to show, has to do with every week we'll try to find the outliers in terms of the keywords that aren't performing, and if they're not cost effective, like maybe this one here, it's kind of blurred out, but it says the cost per action for this keyword is actually 38% higher than the average. And since you do have other keywords in this ad group that seem to be doing great, what if we just eliminate this one, and that would free up some budget for the better performing keywords? Just trying to get the most of your ad spend. And that's of course something that you'd never get in AdWords. Like it's all about kind of adding, and it's never about like reviewing for cost effectiveness. And so that was one of the things that we found that was very important in a workflow. So in summary, we talked about a lot of stuff here, but mostly that the idea that I think that search query report analysis is an essential component of your PPC optimization, and that if you if you were so inclined, that you could leverage tools to do a lot of the analysis and help you come up with the suggestions in a very productive way. Well, I also showed you an AdWords Grader product from WordStream that kind of tells you exactly how you're doing in terms of your key performance metrics and how that stacks up against others, like other competing companies in your industry or spend range. So you won't be like compared to like Geico, which is like, probably they're spending $1 million a day or something, but trying to get a kind of a relative comparison there. And then finally, this thing that we ended on was the 20-minute PPC work week, and that was around providing this impactful workflow for managing your AdWords account, including a very important part of that was the search query, ongoing search query report analysis and maintenance. So that's all I got in my presentation here. I believe we have a poll question for the audience. Kathy, do you think we could launch the poll, please? Awesome. So the offers here are, would you like to do a personalized demo of the 20-minute PPC work week to see how it can work for you? This is question one here, but the other offer here is, would you be interested in doing a 2-week free trial of the Certified Knowledge AdWords training and tools? And by the way, as you saw in Brad's presentation, it was very in-depth and very very knowledgeable, and he's a real industry guru, and has a lot of great insights on AdWords. And I've been doing PPC for about around 10 years now, and I've been reading at Brad's blog for at least 6 of them. So I think it's definitely a very valuable offer here. So just lock in your votes, and as the things are coming in, Kathy, do we have any questions from our audience today?
Yes, we do. So our first question is, say I have a keyword in an ad group and it's working well, so I want to move it to its own ad group, and then it doesn't work well anymore. Should I pause it and move that keyword back into its old ad group?
Hey, Brad, why don't you grab that one? Brad? Okay.
You know what? I am here, Larry. I had muted myself earlier so I could do anything, so I was talking to a muted mic. So the question is, why did you move it, right? And were the conditions the same? So if you moved it and the landing page is different, or the ad is different, then that may be a test issue. But if it worked one place, you moved it, it didn't work for whatever reason, then you definitely put it back. I do find in AdWords, it's usually best to move what doesn't work and not move what is working. And then just do the ad testing or whatever in the ad group that is working. Do you agree with that, Larry? Is that how you guys do it?
Oh my goodness! So 110% agree. So I think there's like this kind of belief that anything you do in your account will always result in better results, but in fact what we find is it's closer to 50-50. Like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And so the way that we mitigate the risk in terms of the recommendations that our software provides is we always base the recommendations on stuff that tends to be underperforming, if that makes any sense. So
yep, no. That's a very smart idea.
So, Kathy?
Okay, so our next question is around adding negative keywords. One attendee is asking, should I take all the keywords from one ad group and add them to another ad group as negative keywords so that I won't have both ads showing from both ad groups?
So technically you could do that. That becomes an organizational nightmare because you're constantly trying to see how things go that way. So I personally don't do it. I just try to figure out what queries should be shaped somewhere else, what flows through the cracks, and just squash that as opposed to doing it that way, because technically then if you have 100 ad groups, your count grows up, and you're always adding the other 99 ad groups as negative keywords for each one, it's not going to scale well. So generally, no. That's my thought. Larry,
Yeah, I would agree with I would agree with that. It sounds like the person with the question wants to have a great deal of control over the keywords and ads that get shown, and so another venue like I would explore is more restrictive match types if that's the goal. It could be an easier way of getting to the goal.
Excellent suggestion.
Okay, our next question is about adding new keywords. So when I have a new keyword, how long should I let it run before I check my search query report?
That's a question more about data than timing as well. So if it's a keyword and you're racking up 1,000 clicks a day, you're going to check the next day to see what Google's doing. If it's a keyword that's getting a few hundred impressions a month, you might wait a few weeks. I personally have this tendency when I add a keyword, I obviously believe it's a good keyword, right? That's where you added it. That if it's an exact match, I'm not going to look at it immediately because it's the exact match. I have a reason for adding it. If it's phrase match, then I might let it go like a little bit longer. If it's say a broad match word, I'm going to look at it really quick just to see. Well, I rarely add broad match words. If it's a modified broad match word, then I'm going to look at it a little bit quicker to see if Google's handling it incorrectly. But so part of it's impressions, part of it is how broad or restrictive is the match type.
So a bit of that, so I look at it a slightly different way. Like I agree with everything that you're saying here. The way I look at it is that there's infinite amount of search query reviewing that you can do. And so the key here is to therefore then prioritize. And so what WordStream does is we kind of look through the search query reports and kind of look at the most pressing things, like the stuff that is most urgent. And so the question of like how long should I wait never really comes up because if the keyword isn't getting any impressions and any not enough search query data, then it'll never rise to sort of like the top 10 concerns, if that makes any sense. So we're like if you kind of flip it on its head and just take the mindset of just I'm never going to get through every search query. I want to just focus on kind of the big problems, and then that kind of answers that takes care of that for you, if that makes sense.
Okay. Our next question is there a limit to how many keywords I should put in an ad group?
There's a hard limit like 5,000, but generally there's a limit more around what makes sense for the ad and the landing page. Generally, once you start breaking like 20 queries, and this is a very arbitrary number, you start getting to a point where you could have better ads and landing pages with the queries, but if the landing page and ad are very specific to the keyword, you're in good shape. So I don't think I've ever seen an ad group with 1,000 related queries, ever. But so generally I find when you break 20 to 50, you've probably gone too far. But again, it comes back to the relationship of the landing page and the ad to the keyword.
So I would agree 100% again. Just adding that your time is not free, meaning it takes time to research and add these keywords. And so sometimes I find also another limit is like kind of the diminishing returns. So meaning, of course, it makes sense to add the first and the second and the third keyword. But as you get to maybe the 26th or the 100th or whatever that arbitrary number is, you know, it's maybe the value of having done the work might at some point kind of be less than the value to your account in terms of the better optimization that can be achieved just because you know, that maybe that 4,999th keyword was like a really low keyword, volume keyword or whatever. Cool.
Okay. The next question is around PPC Advisor, actually, and there are two questions here. One is, does PPC Advisor work with Bing? And the other question is around, can I use PPC Advisor for multiple clients and domains?
Yes to both. So we have a very interesting integration with Bing, and it's pretty clever. You can it's not like synchronizing your AdWords account to Bing because like AdWords doesn't allow that, but it allows you to kind of create and manage kind of one account and then kind of sort of mirror it on Bing, and that greatly reduces the management challenges. What was the second question there, Kathy? It was about multiple accounts.
The second question was, can I use PPC Advisor for multiple clients and multiple domains?
Of course. The way that would work is you would just create different profiles, just like in Google, how you have an MCC account structure and you have multiple accounts linked to that one master account. We have the kind of a similar structure where you just create one master account and link up multiple profiles. So no problem. With like about a third of our customers are agencies with multiple clients.
Great. We're running short on time here, so we have one last question. Is the search query report in AdWords different from the one you'd find in Google Analytics?
It may be at times, because Google Analytics usually looks at the data it can track based upon how the script is installed in HTTPS and other privacy settings of a user, where AdWords is the straight query data. Generally they're the same, but there are times I've seen them vastly different.
I use the AdWords data unless I need those engagement metrics.
Yeah, and this is where the new beta, and I don't even know if beta is the right word, because it seems like half the accounts have it now and half don't. I'm not sure why. Seeing GA data directly in your AdWords reports is great for this. It just sort of stops the need to flip back and forth sometimes between two systems. And so if you've got an account that has the extra tab when you go with your customized columns of GA, then you can add bounce rate metrics and other metrics right into the search query report and in a lot of other reports.
Agreed. Awesome.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we have today. So thank you, Larry and Brad, for presenting, and thank you everyone for attending. Want to let you know that we will send out a link to the presentation in the next day or so. And that's all we have for today. So have a great day, and again, Brad and Larry, thank you for that great information.
Thank you, Larry, and Kathy as well for organizing this.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Kathy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.